An interest rate cut is on the cards today, but don't get too excited. Homeowners are being warned to sell up while they can before the massive housing crash. At least that's what economist Stephen Keane reckons, and he joins us now. Stephen, good morning to you. Let us start with this $115 billion in debt, the deficit that we're looking at right now. Now, economists are saying don't worry about that, but why are Australians worried? And should we be?
Well, we should be worried because we've got into a situation we should never have got into.
The philosophy of the STUD69.
But really this goes back in Australia's case not just to the current government or even the one before that, but back for 40 or 50 years.
The people's voice must be heard.
With ignoring the level of speculation that was going on with debt, we're now having a debt-induced crash, and the deficit's partially just a natural response to that.
With the people who pay the bills.
How far into deficit do you think we will end up going?
To end the politics of fear.
Well, if we continue following the same policy the Japanese have, we'll end up owing 1.5 times our economy in public debt at some stage.
The politics of the roadblock. The philosophy of the STUD69.
Japan went into a similar crisis back in 1990 when the government then owned about 50% of its GDP as its debt. It now owes 175% of its GDP, and Japan is still in effectively a depression 20 years later.
All right, Kevin Rudd said yesterday that he will move heaven and earth to make sure that we're out of debt as soon as possible. What's the reality of that?
The policy of our government. To end the politics of fear.
I think it's inevitable we're going to go into long-term substantial debt, long-term deficits. No government on the planet could stop that happening. It's a bit like King Canute and the tides.
So for how long, do you reckon?
Well, Japan is still in deficit after 15, 20 years of this. If we continue following this, trying to stimulate our way out of this thing, we're not going to get out of it.
We're watching pictures here of property. Do you think it's inevitable that property will also go into some level of decline, a significant one?
Yeah, again, the same thing applies across the whole world. Japan's prices fell about 40% on average over their recession. They're still stuttering along. Tokyo fell 72%.
This country has many challenges. This country has had any intention of conquering them.
To think we can avoid it is rather arguably because we have marsupials, our economy won't be affected what's affecting everybody else on the planet.
$10 billion was spent before Christmas as part of a rescue stimulus package. Retailers say it worked, but my concern is that it was a band-aid solution. What are your thoughts on whether or not that worked?
Oh, it's certainly better than not doing it, because the government at least has the capacity to spend, whereas the private sector is too much.
But that money's now gone, right?
It's gone. And in terms of that's $10 billion in at the same time as households and businesses are trying to reduce their debt. They might take $100 billion out of the economy effectively by trying to pay their debt down. It overwhelms what the government can do.
So is that an effective way of spending our money, do you think?
No, I think it's following conventional economic advice, and that's what got us into this trouble in the first place.
Tax cuts for low-income earners has been flagged as well. What sort of degree do you think that would mean to the economy?
Not a great deal. I'd far rather see them boosting unemployment benefits and getting rid of all the ridiculous penalties that apply now to anybody who loses their job, and certainly getting rid of the requirement you've got to pay your savings down to virtually zero before you can get the dole. That should be abolished. That'd be a much better thing than fiddling with a government deficit.
All right, interest rates look set to go down by 1%. Some are predicting 1.5% today. Where do you see interest rates in the next 6 to 12 months?
I call it as being 2% by the middle of this year, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and zero, close to zero at least by 2010, and it's still on track to reach that.
As gloomy as it is, paint a picture for us briefly on what Australia will look like in 12 months.
Like the beginning of the Great Depression. I can't be anything other than that. We have a massive level of debt. We've been borrowing for 45 years, and it's time to pay the tune, or to go back and get the bank and say you should never lend that money in the first place. We have to redefine the financial system to stop this happening again.
You don't see any way out of it at all?
No, I called it about 3 years ago, the recession we can't avoid. I was called a lone voice at the time. I'm not alone anymore, unfortunately.
It is depressing. Professor, you have great insight into these sort of things. I hope you're wrong.
No, all the time. I wish I did. Wish I was too.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate
Thanks,
it. Lisa.
Thanks.
Flame, which hither ye have brought from regions where I reign. Ye fools and priests, I spit upon your fire.